GM. Yo, GM. How's everybody doing? It's Thursday, mid-morning, almost noon, at least for me. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Give me a GM in the chat. Let me know if the volume's good, if I can make any adjustments. And we'll get this show underway. See, we've got about 6 people joining with us at the moment. How's everybody doing today? Things feel as though they're improving a little bit. GM all good, says David. Okay, good to know you guys can hear me. Welcome to Astrology for Men. I am 0xRapture, where I will chart any shitcoin with a pulse. This show is brought to you by the Daily Edge. Don't forget to subscribe to thedailyedge.com, your daily newsletter of actionable intel and insights from Onchain Wizard regarding the on-chain landscape over the previous day. Gives you intel on accumulation patterns, where capital is flowing, what trends are hot, things to look out for. Again, that is a free newsletter that we put out practically daily. So go ahead and subscribe to that. Let's see how we're doing here. Chef Panda says GM. Hermit says volume is good. Okay. So today I titled it as Grass is Always Greener. And anyone that's been active in the markets for the past several days would know that there's been a lot of chain hopping, a lot of bridging around, a lot of chasing gains. And how do I feel about that? Well, I mean, we're in the late stage of the summer. Market is fairly quiet. The people remaining are just looking for any bit of edge to eke out gains from the remaining participants that are here through these dog days. And so if you're early, like if you'd bridged to Tron, which was the hot thing, if you bridged to Tron like day 1, day 2 even, you were having a great time. But then after that, it sort of becomes a knife fight for who can grab the most exit liquidity before moving on. And then even yesterday, we saw Binance started popping off. And all this is spurred from clones of Pump.fund being launched on other chains. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as all the metrics came out for how much money Pump was raking in, other chains were going to deploy their own versions. It just makes sense. And who wins in those scenarios? I mean, it's the protocols and applications like the pumps that are raking in a large majority of this money. So it makes sense for those chains to hop on board and try and capture some of that. And good on them. Personally, I did not bridge to any of these ecosystems. I'm just tired of doing the continuous chain hopping. I also don't think that Tron is great for the ecosystem, but I have my own reasoning behind that, and we're not here to discuss that. We're here to discuss charts. So let's, what am I going to do? I'm going to pull up, just to take a quick look, as I always do. We can quickly take a look at the majors. Let me full screen that. I mean, still just a lot of chop. BTC put in a nice green candle yesterday on the daily up here. It's still just chop ranging. And I mean, I don't like spending too much time on the majors, get a gauge for overall market sentiment. I mean, that's a good sign. You know, trending upwards, even in this downtrend that we're in, it's starting to trend upwards. Just hopefully it doesn't get up into here again and then sell off. Who knows? ETH still weaker. Solana showing weakness, but I mean, everything's stable. So at the moment, I think nothing much to worry about there. The fun really starts when TradFi gets back to the office. You know, summer's winding down and they're getting back into the office. So hopefully we'll start seeing increased activity, especially from larger pools of capital. Just want to mute a couple things so that we're not getting alerts pinging off. While we're doing this, someone said, oh, Rat Division said he enjoyed the OG Deuce X vibe of the opening music. Yeah, all the music is from a good buddy of mine from years and years ago. I wanted to, always start the show off with some vibe and some energy. So why not put that music up there and let us all enjoy it? Just going to take a final look into the Daily Edge Telegram and see if there's any last minute requests or anything. Doesn't look like it. I've got a fairly stacked list. Let me take this off and let me bring up the list that we're going to be going through. And the plan today is to just sort of like run through these. I don't want to have this like as a super long drawn out live stream. And as you can see, it's pretty long. There's almost 30 charts on here. So we're gonna power through and get through these, and we'll get an overall idea of like, is the market improving? Are people still touching grass? Are they starting to return to the market? Are we seeing signs that things are improving? I think maybe the last couple of days with all the rotational knife fighting sort of shown people, especially people that bridged in the later stages, that it's not necessarily the best EV out of it, expected value, that it just diminishes the further out you are from like the initial runners. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort by volume, and we'll just start plowing through these. Now, PopCat wasn't a request, but it just got like an exchange listing, so that's pretty significant of an announcement. And you can see on the daily, it's put in a nice move. Let's zoom out even to weekly. So weekly, all right, so what can we see? Weekly put in a higher high. It's closed back below that previous all-time high, but then it's right into this weekly demand here that we have here. And it's, it's holding well. Daily's done well. Daily is in a downtrend. Once it broke below this level here, created a lower low, actually came back in and tagged the previous all-time high and then sold off. So what we have right now is a range. But I mean, given the exchange news, I mean, you'd think it'd be bullish, right? I'm not too sure how things have done post-exchange listing recently, but there's your daily range. It's, kind of chopping around, but I think given the news, like if we go down a lower time frame, yeah, so lower time frame, you've put in higher highs right there on H4. You got a higher high, which came in and touched demand. So now we actually put in a new higher high on H4. So what I'd be looking for on something like this, two areas, either a retest into the breakout level on the H4 or just actually right into this demand here. So those are two areas on PopCat that I'd be looking for a continuation of a higher low to form before moving on. I mean, this is a large cap though, right? Like we're talking about $550 million coin. The next target would be $1 billion. Are we in market conditions for that at the moment? I don't know. I really don't know. If we get a rush of liquidity back to the market, sort of late September into October. I mean, early September isn't necessarily like historically August and September are like some of the worst for crypto. So I don't know that, fall starts and immediately after Labor Day in September, all of a sudden we're like super bullish. I'm not suggesting that, but I do think the closer we get to October, there's a lot weighing on macro, and fuck, I really hate diving into that stuff because the more you look into macro stuff, like generally all those doomer sort of guys, you definitely start getting those sort of like bearish thoughts. So it's best to try and stick to your lane. Macro is not my lane. Majors aren't even really my lane. I mean, on-chain shitters is where I really excel. Okay, so that's PopCat. Here's the bottom of your H4 range. We don't know if this is the top of the range yet, most likely, just given that wick. But I would look for something to come into this demand here or into this higher high break for a lower high and continuation. Let's move on. Smoking chicken fish. So I'd been in a downtrend. It's actually still in a downtrend. So let's take a look. After our last stream, we had put in fresh lows. I think we were somewhere over here. And I was like, well, if it does get a bounce, probability-wise, it's going to come up into this daily supply, overhead supply, and reject, which is what we're seeing signs of now. This one's an interesting one because, you know, there's argument it's such a cultish coin, and people are like, oh, I tweet about it and I get all these replies and that's super bullish, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so fair enough. So let's draw the bottom of the range because we now know where it was. After last stream, we were putting in these candles and I wasn't sure where the bottom of the range was yet. And I mean, yeah, from the bottom up into here, 170% move. That's quite a move. Now you're not buying with the high time frame trend. We're still very much daily downtrend. And if we're going to reject from somewhere, it's going to be somewhere in here. Now, that doesn't mean it makes fresh lows. It just means that you're going to see selling into the supply. Now, someone had asked me in the TG, okay, so I was looking at SCF and I feel like I've missed that move. How could I have gotten on board with an early warning sign or an early indication that it wanted to go up? So what you would do is, okay, you're like, okay, I know it's daily bearish, but I'm expecting some sort of bounce. And I believe if we line up the fib, it came somewhere near the 786. Yeah, so it actually traded below the 786. So that's a difficult one to judge. And the further out the time frame goes, I stop really relying on fibs, especially when a coin reaches, you know, if it's held over 10 or 20 million market cap and it's still showing a lot of daily volume, which this is, over 6 million on the 24 hours. So fibs become less important to me the further out you go. Unless you're dealing with a daily range and you just want to fib that range and look for a potential discounted buy area or somewhere where you'd want to actually sell. And actually, if we go here to here, the interesting thing is it spiked the 786 as a potential area for a sell-off, which aligns exactly into that overhead supply. But that's not what we're looking for here. People are like, okay, I had a couple questions. How would I have gotten on board? So this is daily. Let's start jumping down time frames to see what we have. So you may actually have an H4 trigger coming up. Well, you do. H4 made a higher high. When it closed, see, this would have been the H4 range high that made the low, creating the lower low. You got to close above, but you haven't had a retrace into any sort of buying area yet from that close above. So we can go even lower time frame. Like let's go hourly down into H1. Okay. Now it's a lot of chop, but on H1 you did get a close above right here. The high that created the low, creating a lower low, closes above. You're like, okay, maybe I think this wants to go higher. The only trouble with this and why I don't love going too low of time frame on a daily chart is like, okay, so you're like, I want to buy this demand then that was created on the hourly. Well, you were underwater then for a while, right? It's a tough one to know or pull the trigger on because it's a lot of chop. Market wasn't feeling great through this whole period. So how could you have gotten on board? Because you would have bought that trigger and been like, okay, well, I'm underwater now. So let's see if there's even down over here on M15, which I know I just said, excuse me, I don't love going super low time frame. But we can see if you're like, okay, I think there's a trade to be had out of this, and I know that I'm in the higher time frame bearish trend. what's a way that I could have caught the counter trend? Now, this was your M15 high that created this low. Because as we've discussed before, like you can have a trend counter to the trend. And look, right there, M15 broke a higher high. So we'll just use that as the example. Now you have to be monitoring the chart like a hawk for this and understand that you may have to cut at any moment's notice. Trouble is this was a large demand area that was created, but if you look on M15, higher high break. Now you could have bought that and been like, oh, I'm up, and then come down and been underwater. But buying within this demand, there was a probability-wise short term that it wanted to go up. You just have to understand that higher time frame you're trading against trends. So where would you sort of decide, okay, it's time to get out? Well, you just look for it to come up into the supply, which it actually did, right? So that's a way to get on board. Let's even see hourly when we're over here. What happened? So hourly, you actually would have had to wait for that. And by then it gave nothing really to give you on board. So this is a rare instance on a higher time frame chart where going down into lower time frames. And yes, on daily, I would consider M15 pretty low time frame. Here, I have a question here related to this. What are your thoughts on the fact that the attention score is tops? How does that impact your view on the coin? It depends on the conditions, and the attention score is still new to us at ChainEDGE, that we're still trying to fully figure out how it works. It works into the workflow. Like it has given very bullish signals in the past that have led to really great trades, but market conditions have altered a little bit since then, and they haven't been as risk on for on-chain. But the fact that it was maintaining a high score told you that people were still paying attention to it. The trouble is also attention can also be negative attention, right? Like people just mentioning, oh, my bags are down bag, or what the fuck is up with this? Like it's any mention from quality accounts and across telegrams, and also volume, and it's maintained high volume. So it's a tough one to say. But the fact that it had maintained high attention was an indicator that if there was going to be some sort of counter trend bounce, or a complacency bounce, as they're sometimes called, or dead cat, like you had decent odds, especially if it didn't break a new low. But that's a way that you could have been like, okay, I think this wants to go back up and get in there. And say you even bought here, knowing that, okay, your invalidation is all the way to the bottom of this box. I mean, you're looking at 6% drawdown at max before you'd be like, okay, I'm going to cut. So really not that bad at all. This is actually a pretty good setup. And then your potential is all the way up into here. So you were looking at, depending on how early into that, you would have been like, okay, I see rejection happening. Where would I cut? You had up to about 120%, 130%, which is a good move. It has decent liquidity, and it had been around long enough that you don't think, okay, it's going to die. So you could put in a sizable amount of a trade on relative to your risk tolerance and available capital. That was a good trade. So that's a way that you could have gotten on board this trade. Low time frame. Now the question is, okay, it's made that move all the way up into here. Is that move done? Well, I'd start flipping back to a little bit of a higher time frame, because on M15, I'm pretty sure this is already. Oh no, yeah, M15 it broke structure right there, but it's such a low time frame signal. Like as soon as it closed below there, it had broken M15 structure. But what do you really do with that? I mean, it's the exact inverse of, okay, what do you do with it down here? So you could be using that as an indication that it wants to go lower. I don't know if this is like really this regains bullish structure on daily once it gets a close above here, when or if it gets a close above there. So you just have to know that you're trading counter trend. And on hourly, you lose structure all the way down here. Now you could just be like, okay, I want to be a little more cautious with my capital. If you lose this hourly demand, then that could be an earlier way than waiting for this, or the M15. The actual bottom of the hourly range is right here in this moment in time. This is the bottom of your hourly range. This is the top. Why is that the bottom and not here? Well, because there's no swing low here. This is your swing low. This is the low that created the high, creating a higher high. Higher highs above here and here. So you'd look into here, like you could potentially, if you're really short-term trading and really focused and locked in and paying attention and just on that chart, you could even make an argument, okay, I'm into this demand, I'm going to try and put a pun in. But I think given that we're up into supply, you're just so far away from a good entry, and invalidation is quite a bit lower that it's not a great area to put a trade on now. At this point in time, I would either wait until it comes back down to this swing level, because then you have a clear invalidation. You're like, okay, if I get here, if I buy here, well, if it closes below here, I just cut on hourly. But given that it's the hourly range, there is a good chance that it finds some sort of buyers here for another attempt up. Whether that's just into an underside rejection, I don't know, but that's what I would look at. Alternatively, on daily, just wait for the close above and then go from there. Let's move on. Reddit Dog had been super popular before all the migrations to the new chains. It actually might have occurred the day of, or like after all that started to happen. Let's get rid of all this. Let's take a look and see if there's anything going on in the chat. Everyone's good. Got 7 of you guys here. Awesome. Let's try not to, how long? Okay, we're 26 minutes in. We're only on the 3rd chart, so let's try and speed this up a bit. Okay, daily. Not much structure to go on other than we have this fair value gap right here, which seems to be providing support at the moment. H12. Okay, well, you have H12 demand, but no swing low. Let's mark out this because now we have the true top. Like, yes, all-time high was up here, but nothing closed above there. So, like, that's really your peak. See, even on H4, it didn't go close above. So that's a pretty strong signal of, had you been in this, okay, time to get out, but that's not where we're at now. Okay, so hourly, we do actually have the swing level here. A little conflicting though, because you had a swing here, which it closed below, right? So there was your hourly breaking structure. Hourly closed below, came up. There was no actual clear supply because we don't have a area of buying before that other than this whole region here. We had a close below, came up, tagged into a supply-ish area. Like this was technically all supply, then sold off more. But now it's hugging this area. I mean, even as well, where was your, yeah. This was H4. This was a H4 bottom as well. That closed below on H4. So like you're getting a bit of higher time frame signal, and there sort of was your supply trigger to get out. Oh no, this is hourly. Sorry, my bad. That was hourly. Yeah, so this was the H4, and the H4, which is a significant enough time frame, it gave you that trigger lower low. Now, are we into this H4 demand here? Let me delete this H12 or daily fair value gap. Here is H4 demand, a lower demand, and look at that, it tagged it perfectly and bounced. But what I would be looking for, given that you broke lows here. So what's interesting here is you had a sweep, and I've talked about sweeps before. If the sweep goes counter trend, it's an indicator that maybe it wants to go the other direction. It's still just kind of ranging a lot. And we can say that that's the top of the range. I may actually give that the true top of the range, but you're chopping around here in a downward trending chart, tagged up into supply. Once it broke a new low again, like here's your supply. It's exactly where it's rejecting from. I'd say if it comes down into here again, though, like into this lower demand, even though it's not the structural demand, it is an H4 demand. If it comes down into here again, it's not necessarily a bad idea to try and put a punt in because, your invalidation is really clear. As for right now, I don't know that I'd buy here because talked about before, you don't want to diddle in the middle. You're approaching the lower quarter of that range. Problem is it's a downward range. So if this was an uptrend, you'd be like, okay, this is a perfect area to buy, versus in a downtrend, up here is a perfect area to sell. I think if it comes back down into here, provided it's maintained, still good volume, good daily volume. I guess alternatively, okay, like we did for SCF, like can we go low time frame? Is there something you could have looked for? Well, there it was right there. Why was it there? Swing high that created the low, creating a lower low. Actually, even got one right there too, because there was a lower low. But let's just use this one because it's easy to visualize. So got an H1 higher high, pulled back into demand, tagged demand, and gave you a bounce. Now it hasn't been anything crazy, right? Like what did this yield? Not even a 2x. So it's a tough trade to take. You have to be really locked in on that chart and just like ready to execute cleanly. But it did give you a trigger to say, okay, maybe counter trend, I can get a trade up into here. Let's just look at the chat. Okay, I've had a question here. Can you explain briefly why you choose a particular candle for demand as you come across them? Yeah, of course. So the way that I choose them, and it's a slight variation that I've adapted for on chain and just from sitting with candles, sitting with charts on chain so many times, of understanding what usually works. But it's specifically an area of price action, a cluster. If you're looking at order blocks, it's specifically the down candle before the up move that creates a higher high. I also use it based off of creating a higher high, like as soon as it breaks structure, because this was your hourly structure, hourly range, made a higher high. So you're looking for where buyers decided to step in previously to send price higher, giving it an indication that it wants to continue to trade higher. So why this candle here? Well, in this particular instance, it really is an order block. Like this was the down move that created a high, breaking the previous high, shifting market structure. So your thought process is, okay, if we're in an uptrend on hourly, I'm looking for the higher low. This one was pretty easy to mark out because it was really, that was the area of consolidation. You could have even it depends on how you look at them. See, on hourly, we don't have anything to give that indication. Hourly, it's just still downtrend, right? Like you broke a new low here on hourly. This was your supply area up here. Came up into that. Why is this a supply area? Well, this was the high that created the low. So then when you get up into there, just like the reverse, you're looking for a higher low. Well, in this reverse, you're looking for a lower high, which came into this supply area here, this cluster. There's your swing high. And it's showing signs of rejection. Does that answer your question, Hermit? These are just things I'll, every time we run a stream that I'll go over. But yeah, back down to M15. Now if we're looking, so there it created a new high, but now we've broken below on M15. But again, really low time frame signal. So this could find another bounce from here. Personally, I wouldn't want to take a trade right there, but that's just based off of my triggers and system, how I would do that. Because on M15, you broke structure when it closed below this candle right here. And you can see that there. So then on M15, which is short time frame, you'd be thinking, okay, any bounce up into here is potentially going to make a lower low, which is why if I were to trade this, I would be looking lower. Or if on H4, you get a close above here, and then close above that level, you look to buy a lower, a higher low somewhere, and it'll be somewhere around here, depending on where that ends up. It would be somewhere around here. So yes, you're giving up this portion, but you're buying with trend rather than guessing to think that this is an uptrend, which it's not, and then only to find yourself down here. So that's the reasoning for buying with trend. Like people ask, like, well, you're not getting the Pico bottom, and couldn't you just take a chance and just like with gut? Yeah, sure. And there's, someone has to be that person taking the chance to get it to descend higher. Do you have that level of capital or confidence that that's going to happen, or would you rather just buy with the trend? It's the way that I look at it. Moving along, Billy. Let's take a look. So last stream, we had just printed this lower low, and I was like, okay. On daily, we've continued to print lower lows. My gut tells me, and probability-wise, not my gut, excuse me, let me rewind, not my gut. The probability-wise, based off the technicals of my analysis, say that we're going to come up into here and reject. And what did we do? Printed a new daily lower low when it closed below there. And that's like textbook. Like this is a textbook example of why you want to buy with trend. Because yes, sure, be a hero, buy that, and hope that you just bought the Pico bottom and the whole thing's reversing. Or conserve your capital and wait for the moment that the trend is telling you that it wants to go up. So we made a new lower low on Billy. People keep telling you Billy to a Billy, yet here we are. So here's at present the top of the daily range. We don't really know yet if that's the bottom until this candle closes. So as of right now, unclear, other than continued downtrend. And if we look, after it broke below that low, it's come up into it and is rejected. I think Billy gets interesting again if it can close back above this level here, which is 36.3 million or so, but that's a daily close. There's also another swing level here with supply. So, excuse me, this one's a little bit difficult in the sense that you have a few supply zones in here. Like there's one there, and look where it exactly rejected off, even though it hadn't broken a new low yet, because this would have occurred and then it sold off below. But there was an area of supply there that you could have been keeping an eye out for. I think in the event of this closing above that level, in the event of this closing above this daily high here, I'd still be concerned that this is supply. So if you're not in this looking to get in, I would hold off. Unless you want to do something like drop down to, well, okay, look at that. Here's a good example of dropping down to a lower time frame to try and catch the counter trend. Here's your H4 swing high that created the low, breaking a lower low, closed above, came back in here, came in and tagged into demand, and there was a trade there. So if you're looking for reasons to bullish, 30% move, nothing crazy, but it's been around long enough, it's not going to die. So you put a couple $1,000 in 30% is a decent move. And we've also now, right here, delete this so we can see a little bit clearer, made a new H4 higher high. So then where's your demand? Your demand is here. So right now, this could be a potential reason to want to be in an H4 trade. Because here's your range. made a higher high when it broke above there, and it's looking to make a higher low. So if you want to trade counter trend, it's perfectly acceptable. If you're given signals like this could be an area to buy. Your invalidation is breaking below here, so you've got a bit of a distance, but not too crazy. 13, 14, 15% risk before you're invalidated, which for on-chain is really quite small. So your bull thesis right now, counter trend to the daily trend, counter to the daily trend this is your bull thesis right here. If we've printed H4 higher highs, well, I'm looking for that to continue. And then where would I keep an eye on is this supply that we drew up in here. So, you've got like a potential of 40% move or so with 10% downside risk, 10 to 15% downside risk. I mean, you've got decent RR there. That is not a horrible trade. I'm going to get this off screen here. That's not a horrible trade at all. Just be aware of the higher time frame trend, that if you are going to take that trade, there's a high likelihood that if it gets up into here, it's going to sell off. So just keep that in mind. Nothing ever says you can't trade counter trend. And look at that, we're getting a bit of a pop now. Maybe it's one of you guys buying. Nothing ever says you can't trade counter trend. You just have to find the counter trend signal that it wants to go up, and just be aware of the time frame you're trading on and aware of the higher time frame area where you would look for rejection. Simple enough, right? I mean, this stuff is simple. It's not easy. None of this is ever easy, especially in the moment, and psychology is a big part of it, but it's simple steps and simple things to look out for that can give you the idea of, okay, this is a trade I'd like to take. And I know where my invalidation is, very clear, it's down here. And my target would be somewhere up in here. Okay, moving along. I don't think anyone specifically requested MOG. This was a request from last time, and I just wanted to show an example of counter trend or of finding the reversal. This was an H4 swing high that created a low, but we're into an area that we'd be looking for a higher time frame. I think it's weekly. No, it's daily. We're into it. You see it made daily higher high after a downtrend. So you're looking this area in this demand, you're looking for a sign that price wants to go higher. And what happened was on H4, similar to that Billy trigger, although this is going with trend, which is it's more layers stacked on top of your thesis for a probability to go higher. So if you're with the high time frame trend, and then all of a sudden your low time frame switches from being counter trend to being with trend, you have a much better probability that you're buying a good trade, or you're putting money into a good trade. So H4 got to close above. When it closed above this swing level, came down into this H4 demand and reacted almost perfectly. And now you've made a new H4 swing high when it closed above that level. So we can get rid of that. Your new demand for H4 is here. And you'd be looking for something in there as your higher low. Hasn't quite tagged yet. It may not even come all the way down there, although, if you have patience, more than 50% of the time, your patience will be rewarded, at least in my experience. But again, higher market cap, you're not worried about rug risk, so you can put more money into this. And then ultimately, given that it's resumed a daily uptrend, your targets are sort of up here, and then possibly back to all-time highs or beyond. So that's a good risk reward on that. Obviously, last night or yesterday, when it did this, was the better trade. But this is where we are now. And you have to trade the chart in front of you. Bullish uptrend. Time frames aligning from higher to lower. Why not? Someone requested Moo the Bull. Ooh, okay, let's reset this. dislike when you get wicks like that because it distorts the chart. Okay. So Moon with the Bull had a huge move up a couple weeks ago, almost a month ago now, actually. Wow. August 22nd, guys. Where is time going? Had a huge move up, consolidated in a downtrend, but still in the daily uptrend. It's just looking for the higher low. It's actually come down and swept the swing low of the daily and reacted. Also came in and tagged the previous all-time high, which was this gray level here at 87.6 million. You see how important that level has been in the past, right? It's this level from here. Very important. Wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. You know, there was a large chance it could have gone down here, but instead it popped up. So now you're looking for the higher low. Now, obviously, you want to, given it came so close, you want to buy as close to that as possible, but it may not give you that chance now that it's reacted from there. And another thing that I see as well on this, I mean, you guys know that I'm not huge on diagonals, on the mean lines. It's not even that obvious to me. Like if I were to draw this, it's not that obvious because what you're thinking, okay, that was the break and here's the retag. I mean, yeah, it worked, but it's not really clean. There's a lot of chop around that, but it's signaling, okay, we had green light, red light, now we're into yellow light. Maybe it's going to go green light again. I don't know whether the person who requested this was looking for an entry or whether they should get out or not. Well, your trigger that it's a failed uptrend is if you get a daily close below this level. The unfortunate thing is, you know, that's below 81 million. If you've held, I mean, if you bought into this, why sell here? I would just wait to see what happens at this point. If you're looking to get in, your risk reward is decent here. Like you have to be okay with the potential 21 or so % loss if you get a daily close down there, but your risk reward is good. We can also pop down. Let's see. Okay. So H4 realigned with the bullish trend. All right. High created the low. On H4, you got to close above. Now, technically, this was the H4 demand here that you would have initially looked for, which people were bidding. You can see that people were like, okay, I'm hoping it's going to, but then it broke below. So then it came back down. So trading the counter trend on lower time frame, it's going to give you varying rates just because coin that has a larger market cap, I mean, this is 100 million. Those lower time frame movements can become a lot of noise. But you're still overall saying, okay, daily is bullish. I'm looking for reasons to get in this trade to go higher. So I think obviously there was great, but here is not a bad idea because you haven't lost the structure. Moving along, retarded APR, Raper. This was a launch that just launched earlier this morning. It's an ohm style Ponzi. I've heard bullish things from a couple of my mates in the space. Let's just mark out a couple of the levels that I immediately see. So look at that. You had launch, sold off a bunch, broke a new high on M15, came down, tagged M15 demand, chopped a bit, and then sent. So given that we broke a new high here, where's your M15 range is this. It's really hugging this high here. So I don't know that I'd love it if it came all the way back down here because really your M15 demand is down here. Like, wouldn't love to see it come all the way back down here again, but it is possible. There's a probability that it does that, but I think given that you've got this sort of M15 range forming here, it's not the full range, but you've got like a mini range here. I think if it comes down into here, this is probably a good place to buy, because it will most likely see buyer step in there. Do we have anything higher? Well, and there you go. So on hourly gave you a very bullish signal with a close above the previous high. This is all your demand here now, this whole area. So what I would think, that this is probably the low, given that it came in, it tagged into this hour. Like this whole region here is hourly demand, but that's a big fucking region. So I would just drill back down into here. And I think, just looking at this range probably holds. Signals of further acceptance would be closes above here, but then you're kind of feeling late to the trade, even though, I mean, if this does pull off an Ohm style situation, I mean, Ohm ran really high. It was like one of the previous bull market kingmakers, provided you got out before the music stopped. But that's the same with any coin, you know, bullish until it's not. And this is super early. It's a bit of a schizo one where like their marketing and everything is a bit confusing, and I believe that's intentional from what my buddy has explained to me. I mean, we can even see on M15, there's an FFG fair value gap here that's holding. That disbursement with no price action trading in between there. I suspect that this would hold, but then I also, if that does not, this previous breakout level would be a good bid, around 3.5 million. This is a super new chart, and like, yes, I can chart any coin. This has like Ponzi-nomics involved and stuff like that. So there's other factors at play. I don't think the actual mechanisms are live yet. It's just the token. Yes, this says it's mintable, but that's on purpose. The mechanism of the protocol. So there's no fear in that. I don't know if, you know, I'm not saying that they can't rug or anything like that. I don't have any inside information. I just have some friends that are bullish on this. There was a beautiful trade there, but they think this goes much higher. I'm not saying that. I have no idea, but it looks bullish to me. So I would look for this range to hold for continuation. If it comes down to here, there's another area to bid. If it comes all the way down here, I mean, you're getting a really good discount. Do people start to get worried down there? I don't know. But that's three things I would look for. Like, you know, people could say like, what's that pattern up here? I don't really love looking at patterns. I just like looking at horizontals and acceptance or failure. But, you know, there's that, what is it, a bull flag sort of right there. But I think if it comes down here and you get a sweep close, I would buy that, because that's telling you, okay, we don't want to go below there. We want to go above. If you close below here, I'd be looking for here and here. Okay, let's move along, because we do have quite a few. We're lagging a bit. How far away? We're a little under an hour so far. I don't really want to go past 2 hours. So let's move this along. Okay, FWOG. Had a request for FWOG. It's still just chopping in this range. I think last time we did this stream, we were somewhere here. And I said, you know, there's a chance it closes back below there, which it did, but it came to the bottom of the range. You had this sweep level, swing low, but it's not the ultimate range low. Like, you have this level that it's holding. If you're wondering, do I exit this trade? Not here, because you're so close to invalidation. Do you buy here? No. You buy if it comes down and, maybe does a sweep of that level or a sweep of the bottom, are two potentials. But buying here, you're literally diddling in the middle. Just hopping down to lower time frames to see what we have. I mean, I do see a little bit of compression happening here. Right? You got that sort of. Now that's what I'm talking about. A more obvious meme line I'll look at, whereas the other one wasn't obvious on Mumu. You have compression here and holding this. It's holding this floor. Yes, this did close below here, but that swing level doesn't align on H4 that it did on daily. So you're looking at that compression, which is why I think buying down here is much better than here. Conversely, flipping that would be a buy, but right here, it could go either way. It's still bullish though. Okay, let's move along. Giga Chad. Okay, so at the last stream, we had that massive move up to new all-time highs. So let's mark that off. And I said during the previous stream, anything back down into this area would be a bid. And look, it made its initial bid. Now it's selling off a little bit more into here. It's still very bullish. And this whole area is your daily demand. So you're looking for reasons to find your higher low in here. I mean, this may even just sweep that daily low right there. If this closes as a daily sweep, I mean, that's a pretty good signal. Okay, let's try for another leg. Hopefully it's not just a victim of in the market, like attention has moved on for now. And we're just going to slowly walk ourselves back down. But the chart is bullish. It's one of the more bullish charts on Solana. It was doing all this while everything else was shit in the bed and dying. Team behind it is solid. They've got partnerships. It's a good meme. Who doesn't want to be a giga chat, especially in crypto? Yeah, so you're looking for your higher low in here. What we can do, okay, so let's find out what's happening on the counter trend. So H4, yeah, so H4 made it, so it's doing the counter trend thing. Like H4 made a lower low, new lower low on H4. So what you could do is, if you're looking for confirmation and not just trying to buy the daily demand and walking away and letting it do its thing, is you start looking for, okay, H4 made a new low here. Where's your swing high? There's your swing high there on H4. If you get a close above that, just buy a retest wherever that lands. Like if you get a close above here and you get something that comes back down into here, then you're buying with the H4 trend. So your time frames are realigning. It's the same swing level on H1. So given that it's the same level as an H4, I would wait for the H4 close, because H1 could close above, but then H4 closes as a sweep. So that's what I'd look for, but still very bullish on the higher time frame, right? Here. I don't know why that wasn't showing up, but we switch back down. We can say, okay, I'm looking for reasons on the higher time frame in this area to buy a higher low. Now it can come all the way down to the bottom of here before finding that higher low. We don't know yet, which is why you'd start looking for triggers off of lower time frames. I think I'd go H4 on this because it's a higher market cap coin with a lot of history at this point. H1 could just end up being a lot of noise and chop, and you'll get in a trade and then get psyched out because it goes below, and I think it's too much noise. But in H4, so it got that close below. If this comes lower and then you start getting closes above, then there's your trigger. Rap dog. Okay. So this had broken bearish on H12. I know a lot of people that were getting super bullish up into here And I think I mentioned in the ChainEDGE Discord, like, well, it's broken structure, so I would be looking for, this to be a higher low. And like, there's multiple signals here because H12, I don't think daily has the structure. Oh, it actually is a daily level, although it didn't break that high. So I like the H12 better because this was clearly your H12 range that broke below, came up into supply, sold off, came up into supply again. Like, had you bought down here and you saw this on H12, like a sweep, you just sell because chances are it's going to come down lower. Now it's attempting again. And it's holding. Here's your ultimate range low there. Given that this level right here was important, as it was a sell-off point and then a sweep rejection point, I think if you get a close above here, you're actually starting to look bullish. After enough chop here, like this is quite a bit of chop. Provided, like, okay, two ways you'd play this. H12, close above this level, is your bullish trigger that you want to go higher, just given how this level is now clearly important. And I think I briefly talked about that last stream, was like, okay, the downtrend is a large range. What if I'm trying to find something earlier? Well, you look for something to create an obvious range below. That's pretty obvious to me right now, that is an important level. So if it closes above that, you could look for something down here as a higher low to go higher. Or if you get a sweep here again, if this sweeps again here on H12, or if it's a daily sweep down here and closes back above, there's a good trigger because your risk reward is clearly defined. Like, your risk is clearly defined there. How's everybody doing? Still got you? Hopefully I'm moving along quick enough, not lingering too long. Okay, Gin and Cat. Okay. So I think this is a daily. Yeah, this is H12. Was it a daily? No. So daily was not, like, yes, it is demand on daily, but it's not the true range demand. But on H12 it was. And what did I say? I said you got to close above here. So I'd be looking into this demand. Last stream I said we've closed above here. I would be looking for a higher low in here. And it's starting to show signs of that, right? Like, look at that. You got a sweep of that low, which is why I say sweeps at the opposite end of the range or counter to the trend is usually an indicator that it wants to go the other direction. You're not sure how far in the other direction, but it's an indication, okay, either buyers stepped in and didn't want price to close below there, or in the reverse, if you get an upper sweep, sellers stepped in and didn't want price to go. They didn't think holding for longer was worth it to them. So you're starting to get signs that this wants to go up. If you're not in this trade now, like, okay, any pullback, you could be looking to bid. So here was a good sign on H4. This was your H4 high that created the low. You got to close above. When it closed above that level there, all right, shifted H4 back in alignment with the higher time frame. Then what you're doing is looking for a higher low somewhere in there in that demand, which it did. And it also gave you that sweep. I mean, when things like this start to align on multiple layers, you start getting alignment like that on multiple layers, your probabilities start going up more in line with your favor, because you had the H4 higher high, came down into demand, swept that swing low there, which is an H12 and H4 level, swept it, closed above, inside demand. That's a bullish indicator. You got your move. What I would be looking for next is what happens Oh, no, not what I wanted. What I'd be looking for next on this is what happens here. You get another higher high here on H4. Well, then indication it wants to go higher. If this is just comes up here and sweeps, then you may get something back down here again. But this is a perfect example of multi-time frames aligning and different analysis techniques folded in together to give you signs to be bullish. And so say you got that sweep and you're like, okay, I saw a sweep there. The candle closed up here. I'm just going to buy this next candle. You've almost had a 2x and potentially higher. Moving on, Michi. It looks similar to Billy, right? I mean, Billy made a new lower low. Excuse me. But on daily, this, okay, let me break this down. Let me move back a few steps so you can understand what happened. Let's get rid of this. Okay, daily. This was your range high that created a new low. You got to close above, creating a higher high when it did that. So then this became demand. This area here was the demand with your swing low on daily there. But then you got to close below and has since been acting. See, when I close below there, it's been since has been acting as supply. Trouble now is, at least on this chart, like your range high for daily is all the way up there. Like this is your daily range now. So like where does it ultimately, where does it reject from? Where does it reverse from? I mean, as of now, this supply it's rejecting from. It's held up stronger than like we saw in Billy, like fresh lower lows. Like this is still holding. Michi's been one of those coins that has held attention for a long time. And people keep trying to revive it, and then it just keeps shitting on you. If you're in here and you're looking for a way to get bullish, let's pop down to lower time frame and see what we see. Okay, well, H12, you have a swing high here. Almost. H12, you have a swing high here. You get an H12 close above there, you could be looking for a higher low, but keeping in mind that you are into a daily supply. But if you get an H12 close above here, there's a good chance you're going to get up to here. Let's go even lower time frame. Okay. So lower time frame. Lower time frame, this is your range. This is your H4 range, right? Pretty obvious. It's respecting that range. This was the daily low. I hate how the wicks don't align, but that is what it is. But on H4, you get a close above here, given how tight this is and obvious this is a range. You get a close above here. That's your trigger to go long. Or if you come back down here and sweep, there's another trigger. In the interim, I would just wait. I would be patient here. Also, guys, if you have any questions while I'm going through these, or if this all just makes sense, like let me know. If you need deeper or further explanation of things, just let me know. I'm periodically checking back into the chat. Kobe, one we did analysis on last stream. Okay, bullish, obviously, just printed new all-time highs. So where were we last stream? We were here. And I believe if you go back and watch the previous stream, I said, if this doesn't hold, I could see it come back down into this demand here because this is the true bottom of the range. I said, I could see a scenario where it comes back into here and then you buy that again. And that has obviously played out. So where are we at now? Let's take a look. Let's just remove some of this and let's start fresh. So there's an important level. If you get a daily close above here, that's quite bullish. I mean, like, given how weak new-ish, but getting older coins have been, like, how old is this? This is almost a 2-week coin, 11 days, and that it's had that response. It's quite bullish given the conditions we've been in. I mean, once it broke there, what you could have done, oh, it just broke that. Okay. Like, this just happened. So what would I be looking for now? Well, on H4, if this closes above here, well, if it closes above here on H4, because it hasn't quite had a close above there yet, did it? No, it closed just below. But if you get your H4 close above there, still almost 3 hours to go, so it's still a ways. If you get your H4 close above there, here's your demand. Now you could say that all the way up to here is demand. I'll have to see how this closes, because if that closes as a sweep of that, it sort of alters the analysis a bit. But I would be looking, if this gets this bullish close, for something here for the higher low. Even it could even just come, it could just be as far down as to there, which aligns more with that, right? Previous all-time high. Now I'd be very aware that we are at the all-time high, and if this just closes as a sweep, and the next candle is looking sweep and chop-ish, then there's a chance that it's gonna just sell off. So that's something I'd be aware of. Hourly, there's no real change to that analysis. Like, your swing low is down here. So let's take a different perspective on this. Like, let's say, okay, this thing has been showing a lot of strength. What could I have done earlier to get on board? Let's take a look. What do we have? I mean, it's a lot of chop. We can see it when we go down the lower time frames. It's a lot of chop. I'm just trying to take a look and see if I see a swing point that could have been used as an analysis framework to build a bull case for. I mean, the chart's bullish, so you're just looking for a way to get on board, right? Was that a swing high there? Yeah. Okay. I mean, you had to be hyper micro analyzing the thing, right? Like, and I don't know how many people are there yet or are zeroing in on charts that much, but you did have an M15, like it was going counter trend. You're bullish, but you had an M15 higher high that came into this demand, and there you go. And your risk reward was pretty clearly defined. If it closes below there, you knew, okay, at least this M15 trade idea is invalidated. But high came into demand, gave you a little while to pull the trigger there, and then it sent. And what did this end up doing? Like 2x. It's a good trade for having to wait a matter of what, like 3-4 hours. But for now, I think any retest, like here, you have an M15 demand here on this. So if sometime soon you get a test into here, there's your M15 lower high that you'd be looking for if it comes down that far. But we really want to be monitoring what the daily is doing here. It's looking quite bullish. So like If this all of a sudden closes down here, well, then you're like, okay, this doesn't really look bullish. The move's probably done. Even though you have structure levels in between, and it has been bullish. So I'd be looking for this to continue being bullish, and just look for somewhere to get on board here. In terms of like top targets, people often ask for, like, what could you look for? Okay, so look at that, how that initial fib level, yes, it reached higher, but it's acting as a level of resistance now. So there could have been one. The next target up would be just shy of 9 million. So I would just call it 9 million. That's what I'd look for in terms of upside, and then reassess once it gets there. And if anyone's curious about those fibs and how my fibs are set up, etc., there's in the Astrology for Men Telegram group under resources. They're there. There's some screenshots. You can just adjust your fibs accordingly, and they'll align the same. And then at least you're looking at the same things that I'm looking at. They're set up with some custom levels in there that I find work usually pretty well and have been adjusted over the years. You can make adjustments to them as you see fit, but for me, they tend to work out pretty well. Moving along. Retardio. Okay, so last stream, I had said it broke structure. We were in daily bearish structure, but we're into weekly demand. So what you're looking for is alignment between timeframes. So incorporating multiple analysis styles or techniques to arrive at a thesis. So you're weekly bullish, daily bearish. We're starting to get some signs, right? Like you had a sweep on daily. So this could be an area where you put in a bid, because if you close below this, well, you know where your invalidation is. Now, you could come down here and then find the bottom. We don't know yet, but as of right now, you're getting sweeps there. For it to realign on daily, if you want to buy fully with the daily trend and not just on some sort of sweep, you'd be looking for a close above here, because this level is clearly important, as it had a sweep there and close below. Technically, that's the swing high that created the low on the daily, but we can see how this level is probably, because this is supply at the moment, this whole area on daily, this is supply here. So you're either buying that sweep or you're buying a close above here. Brainlit. Whoa. Okay. I know a lot of people have been quite bullish on this coin. It's a good meme. Fits into the Wojak family. And a huge move up, and it's just been a lot of consolidation. This line here was obvious to me. And now we've broken above it. And you actually had a daily close above this level here. So I think what you're looking for is where it's tagging right now. Like you're looking for your higher low here. I wouldn't really love it if you started getting closes back below this swing level here on daily. Alternatively, or as a confluence to that, it would then put it back underneath that trend line. But I think if you get something down right around here, aligning with that trend line, it's probably a good spot for a bid, to be looking for a higher low. Lower time frame, let's take a look. Now, one thing that I will note here is how important this level was, or is. got closes above, chopped, broke below, came up and tagged it, sold off again. It's come up pretty much into that exact level. Like you did get a close above on daily and H12, which is a good sign, but then it's closed immediately back below. So that is something to be aware of, but I think you're looking for your higher low to go higher here. If we can get some, some bullish momentum in the market, but that's where I'd be looking. Closes below that sweep, I start to get a little nervous because you start to lose that trend line again. Ooh. So it's been making lower lows on H4. Daily doesn't have the structure. H12, that wasn't a swing level, but it was H12 demand that broke. Okay. So this one's kind of interesting because this was your H4 supply that created a low. There was also then a new lower low, and it got a close above, but right into that supply and then sold off. I don't know if there was any specific requests on this one, but I think, your risk reward here isn't bad because you're so close to invalidation that you're thinking, okay, let's get another run up at this. If you close below, obviously you cut. Close above, if you're looking for the other trigger, you're looking for a higher low. Like I don't love buying counter trend, but at the moment, given how close it is to this invalidation level, you do have an argument to be made. I don't think anyone requested this one or this one. Now, here's one that I dropped the ball on. After this candle, 2 streams ago, I think, or yeah, I can't remember if it was last stream or 2 streams ago. With that, I was like, I wouldn't touch this. And then look what's going on to happen. So after doing further analysis and like putting the bias aside about hearing about the team, obviously if they've sold all their tokens, then they're not a concern anymore. But then you can clearly see now there's an H4 range between these 2 levels, right? Like struggled at the top, sold off, was rejecting off it. As soon as it closed back above, went to the top. As soon as it came back down and tagged again, it went to the top. And the top is clearly acting as resistance again. I think 2 things. If it comes back down here again, you could just play this as a range. Ideally, you get a sweep, and then you look to go long to trade it back to the top of the range, or you get a close below and then recapture the level as it close back above, then you go long. Here, if it closes above this range, convincingly, because it's done it before and then sold off. So if it closes above this range in a convincing way, what would convincing be? Okay. I think if you close it right here, there's the daily close level that's capping it. If you get a daily close above 2.77, if you get a daily close above that level, that would be your trigger that it wants to go higher. But at the moment, see, the reason why it doesn't align is just because of the time frames. But so let's call it 2.8. You get a daily close, daily, not just H4, but a daily close above 2.8. That's your signal that it wants to go higher. Looks like it's compressing. Is there an obvious? Not really. No, it's not an obvious meme line. Okay, so that's what I'd look for. Either back down here to play the range or a convincing daily close above here. Or how are we doing? Got 5 of you still with me. And we're about an hour and a half. So let's keep this moving along. We're doing good work. Let's reset the chart view. Aura on daily. Ooh, okay. Just yesterday made a new fresh daily lower low, but right into a previous level of importance, which it spiked off of. Given that it is, given that it was so close to a key level from the past, there was a good chance that it would bounce there, and it's given a little bit of a bounce. Not much though. Not really anything you overly want to. You're not feeling overly bullish to risk capital on. But now that we have this new low, let's adjust our supply zone. Here's the top of your daily range. We don't know where the bottom is fully yet. But if you get a daily close back above here, you regain structure and you're bullish again. At the moment, you're very much in a daily downtrend. Don't love it, other than that spike to that level. On lower time frames, is there anything of note? Not really. Like, your range is still all the way up here. So I would just wait on this one. Either it chops here for a while, and maybe you get a sweep of that level, of that swing low there. We don't know if it's the low yet, because this daily could still sell off further. We just don't know yet. It's too early. Let's say this daily closes here, and then the next day you get to come down here as a sweep. Well, then there would be a trigger to at least go for a trade up into here and then find out what happens up there. At the moment, bearish. I don't know if anyone requests this one, but this one has been strong. And when we find strong charts in the market, when everything else has generally been weak, we take note. So, is the token. Clearly bullish. Here's your daily demand. Interesting. As soon as it closed above that level, which was the higher high, it came down into demand and tagged. It may come down again though. Like, you'll often see a daily spike down, create a new high, and then it comes back down for a higher low. Let's see what's happening on H12. So H12 has had some sweeps. So we might be getting that indication that it wants to come lower. I think if you get something down into here, into this, well, it's daily demand. So you're looking for the higher low. I would, that's a good place to be looking for bids. Probability wise, you'll get some kind of a bounce. Whether that means back to all-time highs, I don't know. The market's very fickle right now. H4, you've been getting some closes above. So your immediate demand on H4, if you're looking for a lower time frame trade, which we've seen bounces from, right? Like, it's come into here. But given that this H12 is now swept twice with closes, it's 6.5 hours till this closes, so it's a ways to go. If it closes above, then you sort of readjust your analysis. But if this is another sweep, yeah, I'd be looking for something down back in the daily demand. Perhaps even a sweep at this H12 level would be a good trigger for a higher low. But everything is, all the time frames of importance are bullish right now. Like, daily is bullish, H12 is bullish, H4 is bullish. At the moment, hourly is still bullish. Like, here's your swing low. It hasn't broken that. So you could just be trading this as momentum and say, okay, I came down into an hourly demand. I'm thinking this is going to go higher. Just keep short-term view on that until you get indication of what the daily and H12 closes. Yawn, had a request for yawn. Let's reset that. Let's get rid of these. Let's get rid of the grid lines. You all know how much I love, hate grid lines. Let's put it on daily. Let's see, does weekly have anything? Okay, here's daily. Key levels. Let's plot them out. Here's your daily demand. It's so far been honoring that stair-stepping pattern. It's come into daily demand. You're just looking for a higher low. Does that come deeper down into here? Like, maybe it tags the previous breakout level for its higher low? We don't know yet. Let me just here's your current daily range. Again, the deeper into this you can buy, the closer to invalidation you are, the better the risk reward on your trade gets. That doesn't mean that it's coming lower. Like, this could be it. right? So maybe, let's see. Okay, so hourly, you got to close above. I closed above there. So here's your hourly demand. So your hourly has realigned. Oh, you even got another one there. So your hourly has realigned bullish on the higher time frame. Now, why did I readjust that? Well, because you had an hourly close above there. Oh, wrong color. And just so everyone's clear, I used orange to mark a market structure break. So you had your hourly close above, it came back down and tagged that demand, and then gave a new hourly close above, and has come back down and tagged demand, and is showing some response. Now you want to start seeing expansion from here, because if this is just a shallower one, you could, again, get H1 going counter trend. Let's take a look at H4. Yeah, so H4, you got a higher high there. It's come into demand, and you're getting a reaction. So this is pretty bullish here. If you want to get in this trade, H4 has realigned with daily. H1 is realigned. The higher time frame, like, you're getting good alignment here. And just based off of H4, you would set your risk as, okay, if I get a close, if I get an H4 close below there, I reassess. Now, the thing is, daily, the bottom of the daily range is all the way down here. So it's a long way to go before you're invalidated, but it's also far enough away that you could, if you get that close below, see, okay, I'm going to cut for now, but I'm going to be looking for reasons here. And then you'll capture more of it, or you just DCA. Say you put in 50% of what you wanted to allocate to this token, and it comes down here. Well, you get another trigger, you buy that, and then you average down your cost. But also, if this is just going to be the low, you don't miss out on the move. Okay, let me just take a look at the chat for a second. PowerNap says, psychologically wrecked on Kobe since I had a ton of buys that didn't fill just because of Bullx wallet not set up correctly at Pico lows. Was too stubborn to accept that I missed and should move bids up. Yeah, I mean, that's part of the psychological game, right? It's like, oh, I was watching that entry, I had that entry, I wanted that entry, and I didn't get in, so fuck this coin, I feel like I've missed it. And that's just something you have to battle with. I battle with that as well. When you look at it, you're like, oh, I could have had this much gains, and now I could only have this much gains. Well, it's still gains, right? Like, if you find a secondary trigger off of a move, take the trade. If you still think there's enough room on the trade left over that you're still going to walk away with a good amount of profit. You're not going to get the full amount of profit that you initially had, but that's just an ego thing, right? That's like you getting in the way of your own self from making profit, because if you don't take the trade at all, then you're not getting any of that profit. Yeah, and refuse to move bids up as it confirmed itself higher. That's something then you work on, like write that down, make that memory stick. I refused to enter a trade because my initial thesis played out, and I watched it move, and I was pissed off at myself because I didn't get that bid or it didn't work out. And now I'm just going to be pissed off at this coin or myself and not buy at all, and then miss the remainder of the move. Been there many times. It's all part of the psychological game. I mean, if we could all master this and all of these techniques, we'd all be billionaires. But we show up every day and we try to improve a little bit every day so that we can assess where we went wrong or where we stood in our own way, and try to not do that the next time. And the next time it happens, we go back to the drawing board and we say, okay, we're continuing to make this mistake. The next time it occurs, we're just going to follow the plan and see what happens. Because especially on a chain like Solana where transaction fees are so low, like what's the difference really between 200% or 300% or 50% to 100%? Yes, it's a good chunk, but you're still capturing those gains. Just so long as you're maintaining structure on the various timeframes you're monitoring. Okay. Moving along. Selfie was a request. How are we doing? An hour and a half, and we're almost through the list, so I think we're doing good. Okay. So this was analysis that I had from before. I don't know if I ever did this one on this stream, but an analysis that I had before. It looks like daily. It looks like daily broke structure right there. So it's printing lower lows on daily. It's coming up into supply. I think if you get a close above here to recapture daily structure, you can look to go long. But at the moment, there's a good chance that this sells off further and then comes back down into this area here, which is actually an area that I've been monitoring for because it was a clear range from here to here that price closed below, came up, rejected off of. As soon as it closed above that level, it went. So I think, yes, you could be looking for that higher high there, but ideally and optimally, even if that recaptures, there's still a chance it comes down here. So your optimal trade entry or thesis would be comes down to the bottom of this range, either sweeps, closes back above, or closes below, chops around for a bit, and then recaptures. As soon as it recaptures, you buy and go long. Other than that, yes, daily close back above here, but there's still a chance that it comes up into here and then just comes down. We don't know. But just given that this level has also been important, ideally, like there's a thing, there's a saying, it's a range until proven otherwise. Well, yes, it's a bit of a choppy range and like drawn out and whatever, but we can see high of the range, low of the range. Why is this the high? Well, early sign it rejected, went all the way to the bottom. I was at the bottom, closed below, tagged, rejected, closed above, sent. Now, showing that this is the top again, it closed above, immediately closed it back below, and rejected. So that's why I define those as the range point here. So I would just have patience on this. If you're already in this, this could be a good area to cut because you're coming into overhead supply. Lock in. Oh, looks as though it's had a decent reaction. Okay. So lock-in is in daily bearish structure. There's no denying that. But if we go to weekly, we're inside this massive weekly demand. And it looks as though it came and pretty much tagged that previous breakout level almost exactly. I think if you're in this trade, just let it play out and see what happens when it gets back up here. If you're looking for a way to get on board, you're kind of in the middle. So, either Vidamo or Bindam, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I don't want to butcher it, but either he's going to bull post this thing to infinity, but we talk about sweeps, and it swept that level, swept it again, and is held. So there's a fair chance that this is the bottom. That this was the bottom, and it's starting to make moves. Okay, so it's interesting is that on H4, now this took a while to play out, but you had a higher high on H4 when it broke above that level. back on August 5th, so it's a while ago now. But you had a higher high trigger. You had your demand down here, the low that created the high break in the previous swing level, creating a higher high. And that's been acting as the demand. So on lower time frame, bullish. Higher time frame, as in weekly, bullish. Just the daily is still bearish because it could come up into here and reject and come back down. But if that is the case, I'd be looking somewhere in here for a bid because it's telling me that it wants to go up now. Where it is right now, what could trigger me to, okay. What could trigger me to wanting to go long on this would be if this closes, not as a sweep, but as an H4 higher high, I would probably look here to bid. But that's dependent on what happens here. If this is a sweep, it's still just choppy and you're in the middle of the range and I don't love it. But if this is a close above, you'd be looking to buy a new higher low somewhere in here. Now, it's not the definitive range on H4, but given how choppy this is and I like it. I like that as a place to put a bid. We'll have to see what happens though. Moving along. I don't know if anybody requested coconut this time. It was from last time. Let's just take a quick look though. Okay, so you got your daily close below. I think we talked about that last stream. And it's acted as overhead supply. Now it's come down into this level here. I don't think it's a daily level. I think it's H12. Yeah, you're down into an H12 level, showing a bounce. I mean, the chart-wise, it doesn't look great. And you actually just yesterday got a new lower low. So now you're looking at this as your supply. And if you can get a close above here on daily, then you'd flip bullish. But at the moment, I don't love it. Thumbs up. Okay, let's take a look. What do we have here? What's the high? How much chart history do we have? Okay. A little bit muddy. Let's just remove all this because it's kind of in the way. I mean, I do see this that occurred. There was a daily uptrend, broke. It hasn't even come up to underside tag. It was that weak. So let's get rid of that now. Okay. It's now, while not the primary range because that was it there, you did have this area here that you got to close below. As you can see, it was making higher highs on H12 there. Close below. What are we dealing with down here? Okay. Close below. Where would your range high have been? There isn't really a range high here. It's like, it's a long ways away. Let's go to H4. Let's see. Okay. Look how choppy this is though, right? Like on H4, you had a trigger, got to close above. Here was your demand, and then it closed back below. Right? Close back below. But this thing is super choppy. So like, do I rely on this analysis? given how choppy it is a tough one. Because technically, no, actually here. Okay. If you get a H4 close above here, like it's super chop city. I mean, you can see that. It doesn't really know what it wants to do. I don't know anything about this coin, but if you can get H4 close above here, then I would look for this as a higher low. I just don't love how choppy it's been. But it could be finding a bottom. Like, let's throw a fib up. Where's it at? Probably near the red dead. That's, yeah, halfway in between two different fib levels. But you have an argument. If you get a close above here, you look for a higher low somewhere in here to go long. Right now it is very choppy though, and I don't love it. Oh, Hermit says, gotta grab kid. We'll watch the rest this evening. Well, thanks so much for joining Hermit. And you're interested in Lex AI. And I believe that's on the list, so I will get to it shortly. Appreciate you joining as always, and we'll catch you next time. And yeah, it'll be up for viewing later on YouTube for all of posterity. So we'll move along. We're getting to it right now. Lex AI. Okay. Some sort of AI utility token. Let's see what we have on daily. Okay. So we can see how this is a range that we've been dealing with. I guess I started doing analysis on this one before. I think if you get another sweep here, like if this closes above, it's a reason to go long. If you get a close below, like, is that a swing low? What is this? Yeah, okay. So your actual daily range is this, but you don't have any visible demand because it was all up candles. So then we pop down. Okay. On H12, you're in demand and you're holding this level with sweeps. I think at some point this breaks up. I can kind of see. I mean, yeah, look. Right? Rejected, 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 flipped over. Are we now here? Is this the moment? It's quite possible. What's details on this? 5 and 5 tax. I really do not like tax tokens. But the chart is saying something to you here. It's saying H12 demand, bullish uptrend, chopping, but ranging, has flipped this meme line, this trend line, tagging from the overside or tagging from above. Your thesis would be now it's going to send. If this closes as a sweep, like if this closes below today, different situation, below the swing level. But if this closes as a sweep, you have a good probability to go long there. And ultimately, where you would cut is if you get an H12 or daily close below that level there, 919. Okay, Zoomer. So Zoomer daily downtrend. It's still hugging this level. I mean, nothing has changed since the last stream when we analyzed this. I think the fact that it hasn't broken a new daily low starts to give it a more of a, you start to be a little less concerned that it's going to break below, but these candles are getting so tiny. Like all it takes is one person being like, fuck this. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know what's in the mind of a holder. your counterparties. But it's, the overhead supply has done exactly that, but it didn't break new lows. And your invalidation from here is really close and really clear. What do we have on weekly? Okay. So yeah, I mean, weekly broke bearish as well right there. Look at how, look, broke below, underside tag, sold. So I don't love that aspect of it, but you're holding here. Ultimately, what would get a little bit more bullish is if you get a weekly close back above this level, like say, like weekly, like an actual weekly close. It may come down a bit again on daily, but if your weekly closes up here, it's sort of getting acceptance back into that weekly range. But that's, a little under 2x from here. Where are we at right now? Yeah, it's almost a 2x from here. But on daily, if you wanted to just take a punt here, saying, okay, if I get a close below there, I'm done. Your risk reward is clearly, your risk reward is, you're risking 15% approximately. Clearly defined, it's low risk. Culture coins just really, I mean, the one thing that could be positive for it is the fact that MOG is starting to reverse and be bullish again. So that's something in your favor. Moving along, Mere AI. It's been quite a bit of chop. It broke below that range that I drew last time, but then it's broken back above. So what would I look at now on this? Let's see if we've got any interesting things happening on higher time frame. So daily, this was a sweep. A daily sweep there. No real close above on H12, but on H4, yeah, here. You got a close above on H4. So now it potentially could come all the way down into here for H4 demand. Let's draw out the H4 range. There's your H4 range. It could come all the way down into there. Another thing that I've shown before is breakers, and your breaker is here. Why is that a breaker? Well, it was supply that flipped into demand, in which we're seeing some signs of accumulation here. It's an ETH coin, and 30% move is, not much. But you could layer, like if you're looking to get on board this, you could layer bids here and all the way down into here, knowing that you're in validation. Like, yes, this is the H4 level, but I think if you get an H12, or was it a daily? Yeah, if you get a daily close below 2.58, you get out. Yes, the bottom of the H4 range is 2.2, but if you get daily closes below that, it's probably not great, but anywhere in here. Now, why is down here better? Because obviously you're getting a better risk reward, and you're typically, for like a higher low, you're looking for the bottom third of the range. Like if I range this out, here's H4, if I range this out, okay, look at that. You got the pocket aligns with the top of this demand. 786 is all the way down here. Like 786 is a really good, you're looking for discounted levels. You're saying, okay, people are showing that this is bullish with a desire for price to trade higher. What's the best discounted price I can get before it trades higher than where it is right now? That's really what a higher low is the discount before expansion into new highs. And you want to buy as discounted as possible. So you're at the 50% retrace level here, which is what it's been hugging. If you get into here, utility coins 786 is less common than the pocket. So, something in here would be a great entry, but you'll have to see what happens. And Geeko was the last request. Ooh. Let's see. Let's get rid of these grid lines. Let's go higher time frame. What do we have here? Okay. There's weekly. Okay, immediately weekly, this level stands out to me. If it's gonna go from somewhere, it's there based off of weekly. Very clearly defined. You haven't even had a daily close below that level ever since it broke above. So your risk reward here is pretty good, or it's really good. If you get a daily close below, even though it's a weekly level, since you've never had a daily close below, it's your signal to get out. Like daily, it's broken structure. It's in bearish daily structure. Lower low. But your risk reward here is good. Like I said, though, a daily close below here would not look great. Now, say you get a close below, you get out. If it immediately closes back above, like a day or two later, then there's your trigger to go long. Okay. Well, we got through almost 30 charts. Well, 30, including my majors four board of charts. And we're just approaching the 2 hour mark. So that feels pretty good. I feel good about that. If there's no other questions, I think we're going to wrap it up. We got through a solid list. Hopefully there was some actionable intel for you guys in there. Hopefully you guys were able to learn the process, a little bit more of the steps. The more that the more repetition you get with these, the easier they become to spot on your own and to learn the techniques. Yeah. Let me just remove this screen. There's my ugly mug again. Got to do these obligatory. No. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy what I'm doing here. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the dailyedge.com/subscribe, your daily newsletters sent directly to your inbox, full of alpha, intel, and insights from the previous day on chain, as well as some perps information. We've expanded some of the attention metrics into perps as well, and they've been added into the newsletter actually for a while now. If perps are your thing, written by On-Chain Wizard with his years of insights and his sort of natural ability to read the market. So yeah, subscribe there. It's free. It goes out about 5 to 6 times a week. Don't forget that links are in the description below. This has been Astrology for Men. My name is 0xRapture, and this show is brought to you by The Daily Edge in partnership with ChainEDGE. ChainEDGE is an on-chain analytics tool where we track the real-time flows of the top 0.01% of profitable DEX wallets across EVM, Ethereum, Base, et cetera, Solana. We also have our attention dashboard. We also do smart follows for accounts on X that are early to follows of coins and projects that have done well. The attention dashboard, which tracks mentions across Twitter or X and Telegram, as well as volumes and a few other few other metrics that we're monitoring. And a new thing for ChainEDGE is we now have ref codes. And if you enter the code 0, oh, is that an O or 0? Well, just copy the one from the description. If you enter my code, you get 10% off lifetime fees at ChainEDGE, whether that be a monthly, quarterly, or yearly subscription. You will get 10% off fees for your lifetime subscription with ChainEDGE. I would like to thank everyone for showing up. Appreciate you as always. If you appreciate what I'm doing here, consider using my BullXRef link, which as well is in the description below. No direct affiliation, but using that ref will get you 10% off of trading fees, and as well, whatever, nothing crazy, but the little bits that I get here and there from the ref code will help contribute to the show. Again, it's not affiliation, it's just a good solid tool for trading across multi-chains. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for showing up. Always appreciate you. And we'll exit with some exit music as always.